Hi there, I'm Ricky from Moshville Times here once again. I'm delighted to welcome Joe, bassist, vocalist and actor in the band's videos for Irish thrash metal, speed metal, heavy metal band Gama Bomb. So how have you been since lockdown then? Have you still been lucky enough to be working and everything?
Yeah, pretty good. I run a hotel here in Northern Ireland. So we haven't really had too many tourists in, but we've been providing accommodation for the NHS and helping out the housing executive and stuff. So kind of taking us over, but it's been a pretty weird year for everybody, I guess.
Yeah. It's the same. Well, where I stay in Glasgow, it's just been complete lockdown again. We're like tier 4, so the only place that we can go again is like shops. So that's it, just food shopping. So, well, hopefully there'll be some positive news with this vaccine and stuff like that. But it must have been particularly tough owning a hotel in this time then. So
pretty much, man. I don't know. Like, what do you do? Like, we just have to be kind of thankful that we have some sort of work. There's a lot of my other friends playing, wedding bands and different sorts of bands like that, and they went from having a well-paid job to having nothing, and not really being entitled to any help from the government. So
yeah,
what do you do?
Well, fingers crossed it's going to be over soon. But sorry, just a wee button there. So how does it feel to have the new album Sea Savage ready for the masses to hear for the first time then? And how much blood, sweat and tears did it take for it to be ready?
Really happy to have one done. This album feels a bit different, I guess.
Yeah.
A lot of the other ones for a variety of reasons. I suppose big one is not having Paul in the band, but yeah, really happy to have it done. And obviously making the album under quarantine circumstances was kind of, really difficult, but
yeah.
We got there in the end, and we definitely think it's one of our best sounding records, so
yeah,
pretty happy.
So how did you get around recording it then? Did you manage to get a couple of months in the studio between the lockdown when things were a wee bit better, or?
No, we couldn't do anything. Pretty much what happened was we kind of knew last year, whenever we knew Paul was going to be leaving the band, that we weren't going to really be doing any shows in 2020. So the idea was to find a drummer and record the LP. And then when the whole COVID thing kind of kicked off, it kind of we couldn't find a new drummer. We couldn't audition people, do anything really.
Yeah.
And we did like a charity single at the start of the year, living for the lockdown. And it kind of tested the water for making the album on our own, doing it at home, which just been talked about a whole bunch in the past, but I'd never really got knees to go and do it.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a big thing, being able to make the album like that. But again, we wouldn't have been able to do any of this if it wasn't for James, our friend who plays Invader and Decapitated and stuff. We've known him from when he played in Divine Chaos, a band from London, and he was living over in Poland, and he had a studio. He said, "I love Gama Bomb. Let's just go in." He did all the drum tracks and sent them over to us, so it made the whole thing a lot easier, than it would have been otherwise.
So you're going to try and get him in the band then?
No, he's used to probably getting paid Vader me, so he'll not take half a curly whirly and a packet of crisps or whatever Gama Bomb can afford to pay him. But we're really happy to have him, and like as I said, being in a situation where we couldn't audition people, and even if we we couldn't have went to a studio and recorded because of the lockdown. So yeah, it was really just best possible situation getting him in to do it,
Yeah. So again, about Sea Savage then, so being active for almost 20 years now, how would you say that the new album compares to that of your early material? And do you think that you found the sound that you strive for, or will Gama Bomb continue to keep experimenting?
God, we're kind of like one of those, so it's like kind of AC/DC, you could bring out a different album or the same album again and again and just put a different cover on it,
Yeah.
To most people, it kind of sounds like that because we're a thrash band, and when we were kind of growing up, a lot of our heroes, like Nuclear Assault or Exodus, you would get so far into the discography and then the album started sounding like shit, So we always wanted to try and have that kind of consistency in the sound. So I guess Sea Savage, it definitely sounds a lot more mature. There's our kind of progress is never really doing weird time signatures or writing 6-minute songs. It's always been try and write better choruses, try and get catchier, you know, more melodies and stuff. So I think we've definitely hit a good stride with that. We really loved the last album, Speed Between the Lines, and this one is continuation.
Yeah,
a lot of credit has to go to Philly. Like he's such a great singer and he's a great front man for the band as well. So it was really one of those things where you're like, you know, if we didn't have him, we would just be one of those thrash bands with the James Hetfield kind of impersonator or something, you know.
There's definitely a lot of the Rob Halford's Judas Priest impersonations. You know, he certainly broadened his vocal range.
Yeah, and to be honest, that's something that, like, I'm a huge fan of that kind of singing for like lots of those kind of bands, and I think it's something that we're missing a lot in metal these days. You hear a lot of kind of, you know, death metal vocals and kind of aggressive stuff, but there's not enough of that kind of theatrical, you know, voodoo, you know, Bruce Dickinson, that kind of style, and that's where Philly really feels at home. So we're lucky to have him.
Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you very much for that. So we just touched on it a wee bit there. So how was the recording experience for Sea Savage, and how long did it take for the album to be recorded?
Pretty difficult, really. As I said, because we had James in Poland, he recorded, and he's such a great drummer. He recorded all of the drums and sent them over. And usually there's so much time in the studio, you know, miking up the kit and tuning the kit and recording the drums and doing drum edits. It can take a week or more. So it was great not having to do any of that. And the other side of it was our guitar player, Damo. He produced this album and recorded all the vocals and bass and did everything. So, as I said, it was great earning a bit of independence. You know, for the last, I guess it's the last 12 or 13 years, we've been going over to Suffolk in England to make albums with Scott Atkins, who he's produced a whole bunch of bands, but he's made our last 5 albums. But that was kind of something that, you know, when we signed with Prosthetic, they were very much of the opinion that we needed to work with a different producer and try something different. So we were willing to try it. But as I said, yeah, like the recording process was also difficult because, you know, whenever you're in the studio, there's someone else telling you if you're making mistakes and, you know, doing all that. Yeah. And we did a lot of the recording for this in the same way we're having this conversation. I'd be sitting recording bass tracks and Damo would be on Zoom to me telling me that that's not good enough or do it again and stuff. So, definitely, like any new experience like that can be a bit frustrating sometimes, but you just have to dig in and get it done, really, you know.
Yeah. So do you think you'll use any of this experience going to the next album?
Yeah, I think so. And, you know, talking to some of our friends and stuff in other bands, older bands and stuff, they've said that once you kind of really start feeling comfortable with home recording and doing as much of this yourself as possible, you never really want to go back to spending 3 weeks in Suffolk in the middle of nowhere. You know, you'd rather be sitting beside the fire here at home, you know. So I think this is it for us. Like we'll definitely keep on making records this way for as long as possible, you know.
Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you very much for that. So Gama Bomb have released a video for the title track recently, and it was refreshing to see a video that isn't filmed in the studio. But before I ask you the question, I have to ask, have you all recovered from your hangovers yet from drinking that 1883 grog? Because it looked kind of rough.
I know, like, we were expecting to get a slurry of Scottish lads being all like, is that McHugh in the 80, like, you know, the old one. But yeah, like, funny enough, we did actually, when we finished recording that, we all had a big party in my house and drank a whole lot of beer, but it was mostly Guinness rather than seawater or whatever it was in the video. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, the video was great. Like, it's for years we've wanted to make a Gama Bomb movie, you know, and it's kind of, we've never really had the tools to know how to do it. Yeah. And over the last couple of albums, the videos have been getting better. So I think we're slowly moving in that direction to try and, you know, get more cinematic with our videos and try and tell a bit more of a story and stuff like that, you know? Yeah.
So where was it filmed and how did you manage to do it all? Like, when did it all happen?
Well, it happened, there was basically a break in the lockdown, I guess, in whenever it was July and August, kind of around then. So we got in touch with the Irish Commissioner of Lights, who are the people who look after all the lighthouses in Ireland. And because right where I live here in Newry, there's a big lighthouse in the bay, and we thought, oh, this one was totally perfect. But they said, no, you have to go to the lighthouse that we tell you is free, you know. But it was right at the very, very northernmost part of Northern Ireland. So it was a bit of a trek to get there, but the people there were incredibly helpful. And, you know, it's weird. No matter where you go, you'll always meet some guy. It's like, we're out in the middle of nowhere at this lighthouse, and this guy says, oh, what sort of music do you play? We're like, oh, it's, you know, thrash metal. Like, oh, I saw Anthrax in 1986 in Belfast, you know. Always come out of the woodwork. But yeah, it was cool getting to do that. We did it up in Donegal, and as I said, we wouldn't have been able to do it if the people hadn't been so supportive of us. But they were really, really friendly, and did it for a bottle of whiskey. So we'll see dogs.
There you go, there you go. But I hope you didn't cause any accidents on the whole time that you were up there. Like, you forgot to put the light on or something like that. Hope you didn't
ship. No, it's all automated these days. Because we were wondering if there's still some guy who, you know, sitting up there like Willem Dafoe in the movie, but in 1980 they took the humans out of the chain of command.
Made all these guys redundant, eh?
Yeah.
So you guys are not shy when it comes to videos, and it's also refreshing to see, like, it's also been like Gama Bomb's philosophy to have like fun, like just with the guys that you are. You're not like, maybe you grew up watching Anthrax and you saw them having fun while playing thrash metal, but you didn't want to be like Slayer, even though they may be an influence for you. You didn't want to be all serious and things like that. You wanted to maybe look at Anthrax as an influence in that way.
Absolutely. You know, I think it's something there's too much of in heavy metal generally. And I think there probably was a little bit more back in the past with bands like Anthrax, or even there's a band from Scotland back in the day called Drunken State that we used to listen to as well.
God, I haven't heard that in years.
Yeah, but like, so there are some bands out there like that, but unfortunately, you know, sometimes whenever you know, you like having fun, people just assume that your band's a joke band or you don't take the music seriously. And we do take the music pretty seriously. So,
yeah.
But yeah, like Anthrax were a huge, huge influence in terms of, you know, what to do and stuff like that, but also in some ways, what not to do, you know, because not that we ever wanted to wear Bermuda shorts and, you know, things like that. But like, we could see that was a problem for them at one stage, and then they had to change and, you know, turn their back on it. And
yeah,
kind of the same with the singer thing. As I said, you know, Philly's such an individual voice. You know, I remember before we signed with Eric, we got some offers from record companies who were like, "Oh, we love the band, but we don't like the singing, or the singing is too kind of King Diamond or something. You know, if you get a different singer, we'll sign you guys." But as I said, you know, that was a good thing about being, you know, banned from now. We can look back on what happened with Onslaught or, you know, Anthrax and see the mistakes that they kind of made first time round. So we kind of knew to say, nope, we're going to stick to our guns, so to speak.
Because you're just releasing music that you just want to play for yourselves. If there's lots of fans that like it, then that's a bonus. But you're just releasing music and having a fun time that you guys want to do. So
that's it. And like, it's also about being realistic about, you know, if your heroes are bands like Flotsam and Jetsam and Raven or whoever, you're probably not going to be selling out the Hammersmith Odeon, but, you know, it doesn't mean you shouldn't keep doing it and have fun, you know.
That's it. That's great. So going back to the videos then, so you've also released another 2 videos for the album, namely Miami Super Cops and Shere Khan. But you also, as you touched on earlier, in the summer, you also released a charity video for Living for the Lockdown for the Dublin Simon community. Was that something that you guys had wanted to do for a while, like give a little bit back to the local community?
We had a song that was left over from the last record, a B-side, and it was completely recorded apart from the vocals and some guitar solos and stuff.
Yeah.
So we knew we wanted to do something. We wanted to do something for charity. As I said, with what I'm doing in the guest house at the minute, there's a lot of people who are homeless on the streets, and like obviously they've been affected a lot worse by the COVID situation than a lot of other people. But in Dublin, it's a particularly huge problem, homelessness. So we just thought it was a bit of a no-brainer, really, to try and do something like that. And it is something that we'd love to go back and do something, you know, bigger in the future, go and do something for a bigger charity or something as well, you know. But that whole video, that was made on people's iPhones in their house, you know.
I was
And it's
wondering what the
weird
budget
because
was. I was wondering what the
a
size
lot
of
of
the budget for that film was.
a lot of other bands did the same thing. Like Acid Rain had a video out, and they were all hanging around in the bath, and you know, all these great minds thinking alike, I guess.
No, it was great to see, great to see. But before the virus, then, how often were the bands able to get together and rehearse in the studio? And where did you get together and rehearse and record?
So basically, we're kind of international. We all started off in the same little town in Uri here, and then I guess in 2005 we got some guys in Dublin in. So half the band are living in Dublin, and I'm living in Northern Ireland, and our guitar player is living in London, and we don't have a drummer. So when we do, he'll probably be from Timbuktu or something. So we tend to try and rehearse and stuff for things. So originally at the start of the year, we were rehearsing with our old drummer Paul, because we had a tribute show for Mike Alexander, who's the old bass player from Evil. He died 10 years ago there last year, and there was a tribute show for him, which got cancelled because of the COVID. But yeah, so we rehearse in Dublin, and we've rehearsed in Uri and stuff as well. And we tend to do a lot of writing, just like a lot of bands. We'll write songs and fire them around to each other online, and then get together and rehearse as and when we need. But it's a strange thing. The older you get, the more finite that time is. You know, when we were teenagers, you go and spend 5 weeks, you know, writing songs in someone's house. Whereas now it's like, you know, to try and get a couple of hours free is much more of a challenge, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So are you always coming up with ideas yourself?
Yeah, pretty much. Me and Philly in the past tended to write a lot of the music and lyrics and stuff like that. And this album's been a lot more of a kind of group effort. So, you know, John, our guitar player, wrote 4 or 5 songs, and Domo did the same, and so did I. So it's been really, really cool to sort of do that. I guess subsequently, I've had loads of spare material that, you know, that wasn't exactly right for Gama Bomb. And like, I've done a bunch of things. I was writing songs last year for Agent Steel, and like this year I'm trying to do a thing for the idea is to have a kind of left-handed super group of left-handed guitar players and stuff like that. So
so you're going to have a wee side project then?
Probably do that hopefully later in the year. You know, we're trying to find someone a singer who can hold the microphone with their left hand at the minute. That's it.
That's cool. That's excellent. Great. But also with COVID, then, has it made you all look at the band and the business side? Has it made you look at the band more differently now, like how you market yourselves, how you promote the band name? Rather than focus on the music, you're also looking at keeping your name out there for the punters.
Yeah, and it's you know, it's one of those things that in the past we've tended to ignore, kind of, you know, business problems or, you know, housekeeping stuff. Whereas when you don't have gigs, you kind of have to concentrate on that. So doing a lot of things like getting our merch in order and trying to diversify our merch range and stuff. As I was saying earlier about, you know, having James on board and stuff, the whole idea with this record was to work with people who were really enthusiastic about the band. So we had a bunch of different offers from different labels, but Prosthetic were, like, the guy EJ who runs the label was a big fan of the band, and the guy Zach Oren who mixed the record, he did the last Warbringer and Machine Head and stuff, but he was a big fan as well. So sometimes it's easy, you know, whenever you're talking to someone who's a fan, they're probably going to know what you're talking about whenever you're saying, well, we want to try and get the, you know, Scorpions Blackout guitar sound or Thin Lizzy Black Rose guitar sound. They're like, oh yeah, I know what you mean. Whereas sometimes metalers can be too metal. You know, they don't have enough knowledge about classic rock and things like that for us.
No, brilliant, thank you. So going on about the songs again, so how are they constructed in the studio then? So are the main songwriters of the songs that take care of everything, or is Gama Bomb a band where all members contribute to the songs? So you're just after saying that this is more a group effort, but do you think that's brought a different tempo to the songs? Like, do you think some of the speed's gone for more mature songs?
Well, mature is probably the wrong word, because, you know, there's songs very childish songs on the record, you know,
Yeah,
but like topic wise. But yeah, I suppose so. Like in the past, it would be, you know, Paul, our old drummer, is a very big stickler for making sure that there was nothing remotely mid-paced on on the albums. And I guess there's been one or two songs each album, you know, where there's been a, and it's weird because whenever you play it to somebody who isn't a thrash fan, they said this just sounds, you know, like a really fast song. But you know, if you
yeah,
only listen to Sodom all the time, it's kind of mid-paced. But yeah, so in the past, like it would always be a difficult kind of thing getting those through. Whereas it's kind of better now because it means I can work on some songs like Shere Khan, which is a bit more left field for Gama Bomb,
yeah.
knowing that the other guys will definitely be bringing in lots of thrash stuff. So, and like again, it's such a strange thing to kind of talk about because to most people it seems like everything sounds the same, whereas to us we're like, oh, this is such a departure from the last record, you know.
Yeah.
James, the guy who played drums, some of the songs he was recording them like 5 BPM slower or faster. And in the past, that would have been something that would have freaked us out. We'd be like, it's too slow, but it's not really.
Thank you. So, going on about the lyrics then, so is there a main lyricist within the band, or with Joe being the vocalist, does he do them all, or does the whole band contribute to them?
Well, in the past, like I guess when we started out, Philly, our singer, has always written the mainstay of them.
Yeah.
And Luke, our old guitar player, used to write quite a bit, and I would write little bits and bobs. On this album, there's one or two written by me, and one or two written by our guitar player Damo, and then the rest by Philly. So, but he's got such a great turn of phrase. You know, whenever we hand in a set of lyrics, and then you see his lyrics for the same demo, you're just like, okay, you win. You know. So, but it's good to be in that situation just generally where other people can pitch in, because no matter, like, it's the same as any job. Sometimes people will just hit a wall and, you know, they can't come up with any ideas, and it is good being able to get someone else from the band to step up and say, okay, here's my 2 cents worth, you know.
It's certainly something that I could never do. It must be a bit of a headache coming up with the lyrics for a song. So for other guys to contribute, then it must relieve some of that stress and headache, especially if they've got deadlines coming up.
Yeah, I think so. Like a big, huge thing for us is you get a lot of bands who write very serious lyrics, you know, and I think that would be a lot more difficult for us, because it's one thing if you're Bob Dylan, you know, and you can write lyrics that'll, you know, affect people's feelings in a real way. There's a lot of bands out there doing something like, it's kind of like Injustice for All type lyrics where it kind of means something, but it's also not really. We'd much rather stay on that kind of Dio side of the line where you're writing songs about dragons or anarchist zombies or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Because it means you just have a lot more freedom to kind of, I don't know, just do different cool things instead of being totally restrained by saying, okay, well, here's the trying message that we're trying to get across here, you know.
Yeah. Champion. So not knowing the circumstances behind Paul leaving the band, and after being part of the family behind the kit for like 10 releases or so. So how easy or difficult was it to get James Stewart from Vader Decapitated for the album? And do you think he maybe brought those influences into the music of Gama Bomb as well?
So with Paul, Paul told us a year before he left the band that he wanted to leave, you know, and we spent pretty much a year trying to convince him to stay.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, he's such a talented guy, and he's been in the band since he's 16 years old, which was like half his life.
Yeah.
But you know, once we went to Japan at the end of last year, he kind of said that really that was it for him, and he wanted to hang up his boots. And it is always difficult, like same as when our original guitar player Luke left 10 years ago. You know, there are real tears about that kind of stuff, because it's one of your best friends that you're going to be going from. You maybe see him 2 or 3 times a year, at, you know, for drinks and things, but different whenever you're seeing them all the time in a band. So really difficult, Paul leaving, and nobody wanted him to go, obviously. So we tried to keep the door open with him.
Yeah.
But again, with the thing with James, he was such a talented guy, and the fact that he was a fan of the band was just such a plus. We had other offers, you know, we had a bunch of other drummers who wanted to do it. Jason Bittner from Overkill and Flotsam and Jetsam wanted to do it as well. So I don't know, and we're in that situation now where, because we don't have a drummer and we don't know if we're going to go on tour, or will there be tours, or we've got some shows lined up, but who knows with COVID what's happening. We could end up making another record in the same circumstance this time next year, you know.
Yeah.
But with James as well, a big huge fear of ours getting him in, because with, you know, Jason Bittner, kind of know, you know what it'll be like. It'll be very thrashy drumming. He's did a great job with Flotsam, Jetsam, and Overkill. So, but with James, he'd done so much death metal, like there was a kind of fear that if we got him to come in, he was just gonna, do blast beats all over the record. Look, but he was in the opposite kind of head frame, because he'd been doing so much of that stuff with different bands that he really wanted to just come in and, you know, thrash out. And he really dug that there was a kind of old school metal vibe about it as well, kind of just 80s metal. And he was really totally behind all that kind of plodding double kicks and stuff. So like I couldn't have really worked out better with him, to be honest.
Yeah. It must be a wee bit of an ego boost, the caliber of the drummers that want you to record for the band as well.
Yeah, well, like I guess the thing is, it's because we've been doing this for quite a while now. You know, we're not one of those brand new. There's some bands out there like Chrisix and stuff who are a lot younger than us, and, you know, carrying the torch for thrash in 2020.
Yeah.
So we're nearly kind of like, we're in the late 90s of our career at this stage, you know. So it's cool to have been around for long enough for people to know who you are, or, you know, be interested in what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I suppose part of that as well is the kind of style of Gama Bomb. We used to have rules when we started the band. There was no clean guitars allowed, no down tuning allowed, and et cetera, you know. And actually, I don't think we've broken any of those rules yet. So,
Cool, thank you. So now that you're, a 4-piece wanting to be a 5-piece and having different musical influences within the band, is there sometimes a lot of negotiating in the studio, or do you feel that you're writing the music that you want for the band? Like, I don't know if any of you are into glam metal or anything like that and want to bring that in, or like death metal or whatever like that. Is there sometimes a wee bit of like choice words in the studio, or are you all quite relaxed?
I think everybody's on the same page. You know, everyone in the band listens to completely different music, you know.
You're the glam metal guy, aren't you?
Well, like John has a death metal band that he has a side project, but all the other stuff he listens to is like Dokken and Tony McAlpine, and so he's like a guitar player, so he loves all those 80s guitar bands like Rat and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Philly listens to a lot of stuff like Billy Ocean and Bruce Springsteen and, you know, stuff of that nature. Like, I listen to a lot of 80s stuff as well, Tears for Fears, etc., etc. But like, I think whenever we all come back to metal, there's no one who's really a fan of stuff like Slipknot, or I don't know. I'm trying to even think of something from the 90s of an equivalency. We're all pretty much into 80s, you know, old school metal, be it Maiden, Udo, Age and Steel, whoever it is. So there's never any arguments about people wanting to take Gama Bomb in a totally different direction. Sometimes there's that kind of argument about there should be one or two songs that kind of sound a bit more like whatever, except on this sort of record. But it's never been bad enough for someone to say, right, I'm leaving the band because, you know, you just want to sound like Tiger Tails or something.
Yeah. So how hard is it for a band like Gama Bomb to survive in the current climate then, where bands are having to tour non-stop when they can and sell merch in order to bring money back into the band, because they don't make money from CD sales anymore?
Yeah. Very difficult situation to be in. And like a lot of our contemporaries, the bands that, you know, were kind of part of that thrash revival in 2008, like Evil or Bonded by Blood or, you know, whoever, have all had lots of ups and downs because of, you know, if you try and treat it too much like a job, then you're relying on it to, you know, feed your kids, you know, which in some ways you can't really do it.
Yeah.
And for the bands who are, you know, a couple of leagues above us, like Destruction, it's also a difficult job to do, you know, because unless you do 100 shows a year, you're not making your 20 grand or whatever, you know. So for Gama Bomb, we've always had jobs, and I guess 10 years ago we could go away for 150 shows a year, and now we can't. But there's also the side of it that now we don't want to, because I guess there's a bit of an understanding that we're never going to be as big as, you know, Nuclear Assault or whatever. So we're better off trying to maintain our lives as we are, you know, and then do the band for fun instead of trying to rely on it. We had a really illuminating conversation with German band called Tankard, who are like big heroes of ours.
Yeah.
And they were just basically saying, yeah, you know, you guys are kind of getting older and you need to make a decision about how can you keep the band alive and keep your friendship alive, but also, you know, not have a wife who's worried about, you know, where the baby's nappies are going to be coming from, kind of thing. So everybody in the band has always kind of tried to take care of that, and we all kind of have pretty good jobs and stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of us are kind of lucky enough so that if we want to go away to, say, South America for 2 weeks, we can, you know.
Yeah. Like you say, you've got the roof above your head to pay for as well, you know, so it's tough. It must be, I mean, if you're offered like a month's tour and stuff like that, it must be tough to like juggle things about. But
yeah, and like, you know, like last year we were offered 2 months supporting Enforcer and Warbringer in America, and like the money was good and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is something like in the past when we've gone over there, it's cost us a lot of money to go. But we had to turn that down just because at the minute, you know, people have young kids and stuff, so it wasn't as feasible. But we're good at doing stuff, you know, whenever we have a lot of notice, we can go away for a week, do England, and then go away for a week and do Spain, and, you know, do our 3 or 4 weeks of touring every year, just in increments instead of just going away and doing it all in one big life-shattering blow, you know.
Yeah, you mentioned England there. Just don't forget about Scotland as well. You know, we're here too. You know.
Well, it's weird. And in the last 5 years, we've done like Glasgow 2 or 3 times and Edinburgh once or twice, and I think we've only played London twice. So we get up to Scotland as much as we do over to England and stuff. Funny enough, whenever we started out, our first show ever outside Ireland was in Dundee at the Beat Bar. And our guitar player Luke lived up there, so we used to go up there and spend time rehearsing and stuff like that. And we did a lot of touring, playing, you know, old punk venues like the 13th Note in Glasgow and stuff like that. I think the first time we came to Edinburgh was Bannerman's or somewhere like that. With Onslaught, or maybe it was Sepultura.
Yeah, Bannerman's is a great venue. There's loads of great venues in Glasgow and Edinburgh, and there's also a strong scene. Maybe if you do a UK tour, I would definitely look up to Aberdeen and Inverness as well. There's a really strong scene up there as well. Not a lot of bands go up there, so when bands do go up there, it's a good crowd, you know.
We'd absolutely love to. You know, it's something our old guitar player Luke, as I said, he used to live up in Dundee, and his band at the time did a Highlands and Islands tour, and you know, they played everywhere up north, up towards even, it wasn't John O'Groats, but it was somewhere in Inverness or somewhere, and then they went over to Skye and played in Skye and stuff like that as well. So, and funny enough, I was up in Skye over the summer for a week's holiday, so I'd absolutely love to try and get up and do a bit more gigs around Scotland. I think what you really want is like to have a good package of bands. You know, if we could find another, you know, someone like Therapy or someone, a 90s band or someone to go out with, so that was kind of bringing a couple of different audiences together. Would love to do something like that, you know.
Well, now that you've got all the time in the world to do that, get on it then. Great. So I might be showing my age here a wee bit, but before the internet, magazines and fanzines were the places to find out about new bands and trends, and now publications have been replaced with thousands of websites catering for all genres. So do you think that some of the passion's been lost, or do you think that the internet's been a good thing for music and a good thing for Gama Bomb?
It's definitely been a great thing for us in terms of people being able to share our music online and listen to our music online. That it changed us from being like an Irish UK thrash band to being a worldwide known thrash band, you know?
Yeah.
And we got to go to places whenever we did that Tales from the Grave in Space record, and Eric brought that out for free online as well as doing it as a, you know, CD. So
yeah,
it meant that we could go to places like South America and Mexico where we didn't have CDs distributed, go and play gigs, and, you know, there were people there. So it massively, hugely helped us. And it also helped a whole bunch of bands. Like whenever I was getting into Nuclear Assault or Sodom, it's really difficult to find their stuff, you know. And then all of a sudden, I'm sure you would remember what it was like whenever you would hear about some band, you go and buy the album, and you know, it was expensive, you know, and sometimes the albums weren't good. Whereas now, like young kids now, they don't have what's sitting behind you on those shelves, you know. You can just look it all up in one second. And I think that's brilliant. I think that's really good.
Yeah.
I think that the decline of magazines and stuff sucks a bit, because in some way you get a lot of less qualified people, you know, reviewing stuff. And you know, it's the same as like anything to do with the internet. Like journalism is now just public opinion, really, you know.
Yeah.
And like it's definitely it sucks big time that things like Metal Forces and Kerrang and, you know, Metal Hammer aren't the way they used to be, where they covered absolutely everything and you had to buy it every month, and that's how you found out, you know, where Onslaught were playing or whoever it was, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas now you have to go, like if you didn't have the internet, Onslaught could be playing in Edinburgh tomorrow night and you wouldn't know about it. Whereas back in the day, you knew about it because you read about it in magazines.
Yeah. Yeah. Been speaking to a couple of guys, guys from Newcastle and Aberdeen and stuff like that I've known since 1990. Bands like In Extremis and The Rain and stuff like that. It was all tapes. You would put a pound note in an envelope, you would send it away, and then within a week or something like that, you'll get a cassette back, and even if you listened to it the first time and you didn't really like it, you would persevere with it because there was a lot of effort to buying it, and it meant so much to you getting a letter back from the band. Whereas now you can listen to a click, 10 seconds. Nah, I don't like that. Move on. You know, you don't really give them a chance.
It's such a different sort of listening experience generally. When The Storm Comes Down, which is the third Flotsam and Jetsam record, I remember the first time I heard it thinking, this is awful. Like, it's such an about face and it doesn't sound good at all. The more you listen to it, you know, the more you got into it. And then I was like, oh, this is my favorite record. And you're right, people don't have the same perseverance that they might have had whenever they were just having to spend their hard-earned pocket money on, you know, Cold Lake, convince themselves that it was a great record or whatever, you know.
No. So I've only got one or two wee questions left. So you recently signed with Prosthetic Records then, so with the release of your new album. So how did this come to fruition, and how's the relationship been so far? You kind of touched on that a wee bit earlier.
It's been really good. As I said earlier, EJ, the label boss, he's a fan. And the thing that was really attractive for us as well was because they were label based in America, and they had a history with bands who were kind of very, I don't know, they had like a lot of different kind of stuff, like Black Dahlia Murder, just loads of really independent bands who he had helped build up from being kind of semi-well-known bands like us into being a bit more like money-making enterprises. So
yeah,
like we're really interested in all the ideas that he had for us. So it was not necessarily a no-brainer, because there were some other offers on the table, but because we'd been with European labels, with Eric, who we had a whole slew of problems with, and then on to AFM, and we had a great relationship with AFM. They were really nice guys and stuff.
Yeah.
And they did offer us another contract once we, you know, finished the contract there with the last record. But as I said, because the whole feeling was that new drummer, new record, new label, new producer, just try and change things a little bit, you know. So that was part of the thinking behind going with Prosthetic. But yeah, nice guys, and as I said, they do have a really good track record with bands. So yeah, hopefully this time next year I'll not be talking to you saying, "Oh, it's been a nightmare," you know.
Well, it seems to be a year of change for Gama Bomb then, a year of new experiences. So hopefully with the new record then it will go up and up, and taking it forward. Hopefully you'll be able to properly promote this in the touring front, hopefully in the not too distant future. I kind of saw a post on my Facebook about if you're in tier 1, you might be able to like play live venues, but to half the capacity. That just came up tonight, so it seems to be changing all the time. So
yeah, it's such a weird, like we had tour dates with a couple other bands, and Edinburgh was one of the dates originally for April, and then it was moved to later in the year, and it's been moved again, because part of the whole problem really is that no matter how well England, Scotland, Wales and North and South of Ireland do with all this, a lot of it will end up being dependent on how America gets on, because some of the bands that we might be going and playing with, if they're American bands, if they don't get their shit sorted out, then we could be sitting here this time next year with no American bands being able to come over,
Yeah.
And it should probably expose something really important, which is wrong with the music industry, especially in Europe, is just that there's such a reliance on American metal. A lot of the festivals and stuff, there are great European bands on it, but there's not enough. You couldn't do Donington and just have English bands,
Yeah. Back in the day you could, but maybe not so much now, but well, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I wish you all the best with the release. Hopefully we will get to see you touring at some point. It seems to be like whatever you had planned for 2020, copy and paste into 2021. So hopefully 2021
Yep.
and happening. You'll get that UK tour, your European tour, or whatever. But I hope the album goes well.
As I said, we do try and when we go to Scotland, if we play Glasgow, the next time we go up, we'll try and do Edinburgh. So we were in Glasgow last year, the year before. So next gig in Scotland will be up your way for a pint of McEwen's.
Do you know, I would even go for a pint of Guinness. I always enjoy a pint of Guinness. So it's either lager or a Guinness, but it's usually a Guinness, to be honest with you.
I like Guinness as well, but it doesn't travel well. It's sort of, sometimes the further from home you get, the more watery it gets,
Yeah, definitely travels well going down the way, aye. But anyway, listen, once again, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and I wish you the best for the album release. So
thanks very much, Ricky.
Cheers now, thanks.